If you're familiar with my work, you know that I usually post about Bitcoin and how the network works and where I think it's going. This video is going to be a little bit different, but I think this video may be one of the most important ones that I post because it'll help you to accumulate more Bitcoin over the next few years and decades. In this video, I want to talk to you about increasing your human capital and how to invest in yourself. Let's get started. You may know that I don't consider Bitcoin an investment. To me, Bitcoin is a savings tool for 4 years or longer into the future. Fiat currencies are my short-term savings tool because that's how I pay for my day-to-day expenses. I try not to invest in anything other than myself. I don't own stocks, I don't own rental properties, and I, of course, don't own bonds. When you're investing, your goal should be to beat the return that you get from just holding on to Bitcoin. Just holding on to Bitcoin will probably give you 50 to 75% returns, at least for the next few years. So your goal, if you're investing, is to get a return that's higher than this 50 to 75%. The best investment that you can make, in my opinion, is in your future. You can build your human capital. Human capital is a really important concept that I learned about during the CFA exams. Before the CFA, I hadn't really thought about it. Human capital is just the economic value of a worker's experience and skills. It's essentially the value that you can create in the economy. The term human capital refers to the economic value of a worker's experience and skills. Human capital includes assets like education, training, intelligence, skills, health, and other things employers value, such as loyalty and punctuality. As such, it is an intangible asset or quality that isn't and can't be listed on a company's balance sheet. Human capital is perceived to increase productivity and thus profitability. The more investment a company makes in its employees, the chances of its productivity and success become higher. So it seems like the assumption was made in that definition that your employer is going to pay to improve your human capital, but I don't think that's always the case. You can take initiative and pay to improve your own human capital, and it can benefit future employers that maybe you haven't even been able to get a chance to work with yet. Keep in mind, investing in yourself isn't expensive. You don't need to take 4-year degrees. You don't need to take seminars that cost you thousands of dollars. Some people have a lot of money, so they use it to save time by, for example, taking a course with a predetermined curriculum. If you don't have a lot of money, you can use your time to go on YouTube and watch videos like this one to learn more about various topics that maybe help you in your career. This is not a sponsored post, but I took this course to increase my salary significantly. It's an $18 course and it goes through everything from beginner to advanced for Microsoft Excel. This is what led to me getting my first analyst job. I went out of my way. I searched for a course on Microsoft Excel. I took it and I used it to build my skills. Because I took the time to take this course, I took the initiative, I paid this money out of my own pocket, I now have a skill that I can offer to various employers. I can even use it in my own personal life. Every time you learn a new skill, every time you take a new course, you're increasing your potential for being able to earn an income. Every time you learn a new ability, you're able to solve more problems in the marketplace. I've also taken other courses. There was one called the Canadian Securities course, which cost me about $300, but it got me my first job in the finance industry. Without this first job, I probably never would have been introduced to the banking industry at all. I know a lot of people want their employers to pay for their education, and I get it. I mean, if you can get it for free, why not? But what you're doing is you're delaying yourself from being able to upgrade your career within the next year or 6 months. And instead, you're just delaying your growth by 1, 2, 3, even 5 years until your employer finally gives you the approval to take these courses that you might need. Another investment that I made in myself was taking the CFA exams. It cost me almost $10,000, but I know a lot of people who still haven't been able to get approval to get these courses for free. I also spent 1,500 hours learning the content for the CFA exams and actually taking those exams. This is money and time that I could have spent on other things like enjoying my life, going on trips, maybe buying more Bitcoin. But again, going through the CFA exam, spending thousands of hours learning this curriculum was an investment that I made in my future. The Microsoft Excel course that I took for under $20 led to a 25% increase in my pay. And then the CFA also led to another 25% increase in my pay. Now, keep in mind that all of these investments that I made are a one-time thing. I'm not going to have to keep investing in Microsoft Excel and learning it again and again. This investment is made. Now, I have this ability to generate an income for the rest of my life. For me, the CFA exams weren't just a financial education. After I finished the CFA exams and got the charter, I felt a shift in my mindset. And now I truly believed that if I stuck to it, I could do literally whatever I wanted to. So really, any investment that you make, you may not get an upfront return. I didn't immediately start getting that 25% raise in my job after doing the CFA exams. It took a little bit of time, but it happened. Eventually it did. Any investments that you make, you're not going to always get an upfront return. Now, keep in mind, I didn't start just getting job offers as soon as I finished the Excel course. It took months of applying and finding a job that allowed me to use my new skill to solve a problem for the industry that I worked in. Now, keep in mind that you may not get the results that you want within a few days or a few months. The results that you want could come a year, 10 years, 15 years from now. You're not going to always get the results right away. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that one of the best ways to increase the amount of Bitcoin that you have is to increase your human capital. It's to increase your ability to generate an income. When you learn, you develop new abilities and skills that you can then offer to other people in the marketplace. You can solve their problems with what you learned. You can start a business using these skills that cost you $15 or $20 to develop. For example, I get messages from video editors all the time who want to offer me their services. And keep in mind, you don't need to be a certain age to learn certain skills. There are people learning all kinds of new abilities and new skills to increase their income at any age. I didn't start really learning how Microsoft Excel worked until I was about 26. I didn't learn how money works until I was about 27, 28. I didn't learn how to edit videos or even create videos until I was 31. All of this time that I put into developing new skills and learning new things are investments, and they're all going to help me for decades to come. Every skill that you build makes every single hour of your life more valuable to an employer because you can solve more and more complex problems for them. Employers will pay you based on how difficult the problems you can solve are. For example, my wife is a nurse. She's very patient with people. She has a very, very high EQ. I don't think there are many people that can do what she does and stay sane. She's really good with identifying people's emotions and helping them to communicate their problems. This is something that's very difficult to solve, and there are not many people who can do this. So she's getting paid pretty well for her abilities. She also has to work really long hours, and she does overnight shifts. There are not many people who are willing to do this. They're not willing to sacrifice their nights and their sleep to work and earn more money. The solution she provides to her employer is highly in demand. We're never going to be able to automate away the services that nurses provide. This took her a couple of years of education to achieve. She has to do yearly tests and she has to keep up with her education, but now she has these skills that she can offer to her employer for life. If you can solve more problems for your employer is going to pay you more for solving those problems. Every new skill that you develop helps you to solve problems faster or to be able to deal with even more complex problems. Your skills also compound over time. You stack them on top of one another. For example, I spent 4 years studying Bitcoin and went extremely deep. I also spent 3 years on the CFA curriculum material and taking the exams. I also spent hours of my life learning Microsoft Excel. On top of this, I've been making YouTube videos, so my communication skills have been improving over time. All of these skills are stacking up, and they've given me a niche that I can serve who find my expertise very valuable. I don't personally know anybody who has the same skills that I have and has the same abilities. So because of this, I can charge $150 for half an hour consultations. Everything you do in your life will compound over time, whether you're doing things that rot your brain or develop it and build your life to a point where maybe you can start a business offering a solution for a problem. Everyone has their own unique skills, and if you work on your ability to offer more value, there's no way that your business won't take off. One of the most common mistakes that people are making is expecting that they're going to be able to retire at some point in their life. But I think people are going to be working for longer and longer, and more people won't be able to retire at all. The only way to really get out of the rat race that keeps you working for the rest of your life is to build a business, develop new skills, and become an entrepreneur. If you want to invest your way to retirement and you have a low salary, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed, and I'm going to show you these numbers on a compound interest calculator. We can take a look at these numbers here. If you have a regular $10,000 yearly investment in the S&P 500, which gives you about a 7% annual return, after 40 years, you're going to have $2.1 million. Now that sounds like a lot, but keep in mind, we also have to account for inflation. There's a great study that talks about how you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio every single year in retirement, and your portfolio would sustain its value for about 30 years in your retirement. So if you're able to, first of all, invest this amount of money and you're able to keep that money there for 40 years, and you end up with $2.1 million, and the investments keep growing the way that they're growing now, then you'll be able to get $84,000 a year from your investment portfolio. But what exactly will that investment portfolio buy? Today, I know a lot of people who are making $100,000 and they feel broke. Inflation is going to make your expenses go higher and higher. And I have a feeling that your expenses are going to increase at a more rapid pace over the next few decades. If you're spending $60,000 a year today and the inflation rate is at 3% per year for the next 40 years, you're going to be spending $198,000 a year in retirement. So to be able to get this amount of money out of your portfolio every single year in retirement at the 4% rule, you're going to have about $5 million. What this means is that you're going to have to invest about $25,000 a year at the 7% interest rate for 40 years to get to the $5 million goal. And keep in mind, this is only with the stock market. And a lot of people are taking this path. A lot of people are investing in the stock market rather than investing in their own skills. And they'll never be able to invest $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year is more than $2,000 a month. Okay, so instead of looking at the numbers specifically for the stock market, let's look at a new scenario for Bitcoin. Instead of getting a 7% return, you're going to probably be getting a 25, 30, 50% return over the next few years. I would be conservative and just go with 25%. Let's say you want to invest instead of 40 years, you're going to invest for 20 years instead of that long time horizon where you're going to be 60, 70 by the time you retire. You go with a 20-year time horizon and you hit calculate. If you stick to this $25,000 yearly investment, you'll have $12.4 million after 20 years. And this is with, in my opinion, pretty conservative estimate for how Bitcoin will perform. So instead of just blindly following a financial advisor's advice and buying index funds for however long you can and eventually having the goal to retire, maybe you can do something like study Bitcoin and understand what it is and really make a case for holding Bitcoin and saving in Bitcoin so that you can retire much sooner. I think in the old financial system, we've normalized people investing and saving for 40 or 50 years before they can have any kind of freedom. They're going to be working until they're maybe 60, 70 years old. They're going to be able to get only 2 to 3 weeks of vacation per year. And in that kind of scenario, I don't really think there's much to look forward to, because when you're 60 and you're finally able to retire, you have no energy. In that scenario, let's say you were to retire at 60, 65, 70 years old. By the time you retire, most of your life is already gone. The people who you could have spent time with are gone as well. Maybe a lot of them have passed away by this point. I want to give you an example of a scenario that I dealt with. Somebody messaged me and they said they have $500 that they want to invest and what the best asset for them to invest in would be. I told them that instead of using that $500 to buy, let's say, Bitcoin or the S&P 500, I think it would be smarter to invest in a business, maybe to take a course, maybe to take multiple courses that you can find on Udemy or some other random website. You can go on YouTube and just watch videos if you want to. I told him that it would be better to use this $500 to invest in his own knowledge, to buy capital equipment that maybe helps him build a business that, instead of having this one-time lump sum of $500, maybe this business will create cash flows of $1,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month over time. If you just use your savings to buy Bitcoin and you just have a small amount of savings, then that Bitcoin isn't going to take you very far. You'll get a certain amount of Satoshis, but now you're relying on an asset that you have no control over. You don't know what Bitcoin is going to do over the next 4, 5, 10, 15 years. You have no idea how much it'll perform. Maybe it completely underwhelms and it doesn't perform well at all. If you just put a lump sum of $500 into Bitcoin and you had a growth of 25% per year for 20 years, you'd end up with $70,000. But let's say instead of putting that $500 into Bitcoin, you use that $500 to build a business that gives you $1,000 a month in cash flows. And instead of being able to have a 20-year time horizon, let's say instead of 20 years, you have an 18-year time horizon, because it takes you 2 years to build this $1,000 monthly cash flow. If we hit calculate, we see that this $1,000 per month is worth $4 million. Instead of just putting that $500 blindly into Bitcoin or any other asset, if you put that into an investment and you build your cash flow, you build your human capital, you can end up with something like this. Of course, you have some risk here. Maybe that business never takes off. Maybe it never becomes valuable. But there are businesses that you can start for free. You don't really even have to pay $500. This $1,000 monthly cash flow that you're getting, even if it's 2 years later, we can see here, 18 years to grow instead of 20 years to grow. You're going to get a much better result. And again, if you did the same thing with stocks instead of Bitcoin, then you'd end up with $430,000, which is still a lot more than just buying $500 worth of Bitcoin. But the difference in this 7% per year investment versus the 25% per year investment is massive. So every single decision you make has an impact on your future. If you spend that money on education and try to offer a solution to a problem that a lot of people have, maybe you can build up a business that's going to make a lot more money than what just Bitcoin would be worth. If you're making under $50,000 a year, I think it may be smart to take courses or to learn skills from YouTube. You can get free courses, free education all over YouTube. There are tons of videos on this. You can also maybe take the Excel course that I took and find some way to offer value through it. Since Bitcoin is a savings tool and it gives you the ability to maintain your purchasing power over the long term, I think your goal should be to accumulate as much Bitcoin as you possibly can. And the best way to do this is to generate more income, to increase your ability to earn an income. At a point, you'll probably be earning a lot more every single month than the initial investment that you put into a business. For example, let's say you go up to $500 per month in income. You can now buy $300 to $400 worth of Bitcoin after paying your taxes. You can also take that $500 income that your business is generating and you can invest it in yourself. You can then build more skills, have the skills compound, and increase your monthly income from the business even more. For example, to make YouTube videos, I bought a light that's worth $400, the one that's being used right now. We can see that here. There's also a camera that I bought. It was only $100. I also bought a pretty cheap microphone for about $50. On a small scale, I can invest my income and my savings into something like this YouTube channel. And over time, I can probably make a lot more money than I can with Bitcoin in the short term. With Bitcoin, I think the opportunity cost of holding it versus giving it away and buying something else is probably around 50 to 75%. So if you were to hold Bitcoin, you're probably going to get 50 to 75% returns. So if you're ever going to give it away, your goal should be to give it away for an investment that's going to give you at least 50 to 75% returns. I don't like sharing these numbers, but this is how my YouTube account's been performing over the last 28 days. I have a ton more views, a ton more watch time, a ton more subscribers, and my estimated revenue is $853. And this is money that I've made from investing $500 to $600. I'm going to invest the income that I earn from YouTube right back into my YouTube channel, and I'm going to have it all compound. Over time, I'm going to try to reinvest the income that I make from YouTube right back into YouTube, and I'm going to get a better mic, I'm going to get a better camera. And as the quality of the videos increases, more people want to watch the videos, and the income also compounds. Your goal over the long term should be to create more and more value, and the only way to make more and more value is to develop new skills, to develop new abilities. And once you start developing these new abilities, you can start earning a lot more money. My goal has been to just invest as much as I can into the business, but if I ever get any extra cash flows, I'm going to use those to buy Bitcoin and to save for the future in case I see any other opportunities that come up, and in case those opportunities can give me an even bigger return than Bitcoin. What I've been doing is any excess income has been going into Bitcoin, and I've been using that to save for the future. So let's say another opportunity comes up 5, 10 years from now. I can easily deploy capital into that opportunity, and I'll probably get a much higher return than the actual Bitcoin holdings. The goal here is to have as many options as possible, whether that's to be work optional and to not have to go into work whenever you don't want to, or it's to start a business that you can work on whenever you want to. Creating new revenue streams requires that you build new skills and you develop your abilities. Bitcoin is just a savings tool. It's just going to maintain or increase your purchasing power over time. It's not going to give you more Bitcoin. It doesn't provide cash flow. It doesn't provide yield. It doesn't provide you with tax benefits. All you're doing when you buy Bitcoin is you're delaying gratification, and the Bitcoin network itself rewards you for doing this by increasing the purchasing power of your Bitcoin over time. When you build your skills, you're also delaying gratification, but you're also giving yourself the ability to generate more money over time and to accumulate more and more Bitcoin. On a Bitcoin standard, delayed gratification works so well because the future isn't guaranteed, and Bitcoiners understand this. You can make decisions that benefit you today, you can make decisions that benefit you in 100 years, but you could be wrong either way. So I think the key here is to find the right balance. You don't invest everything you earn, you just invest part of it. You don't spend all of your time working, you don't spend all of your time with family. You build yourself up over time and you let your gains compound. Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, and it applies to everything. It applies to your business, it applies to your family, your health. The problems that you have with your health are going to compound over time, and they're going to get worse and worse. So The working out, the exercise is maintenance. It's a way to avoid those problems in the long term. I think the only investment that you need to be making is in yourself and in your future. You don't need to be buying the S&P 500. You don't need to be investing in these companies that are generating cash flows already, because the cash flows that they're generating probably aren't going to outpace Bitcoin. At a point, the people who are investing in themselves are going to be earning so much cash flow every single year that their expenses aren't even going to make a dent in their income, and they'll be able to buy more and more Bitcoin and save in it. The goal here is to build recurring cash flow with your business so that you have the choice of leaving the job that you hate, maybe the job that you don't want to work in the first place. You do this by creating value and being valuable to society, by being valuable to someone else, by offering them a good or a service. If you solve their problem, they're going to give you value in exchange. If you're making $50,000 a year right now, maybe you can invest $200-$300 a month. But let's say you were to build a side hustle and now you can invest $1,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month. Eventually, I think that'll be the case for everyone, as long as you stick to it, as long as you keep trying to put in the effort and build yourself up. Building a business is going to accelerate your growth. It's going to give you a permanent increase in cash flow. It's going to give you more options, more freedom, and it's going to give you the ability to buy even more Bitcoin than you already can. So if you're young, I think instead of buying the S&P 500, buying real estate and getting 5 to 10% returns every single year, you can invest in yourself, get 50 to 100% returns, and build your wealth. The returns that you get are probably going to be recurring for the rest of your life. Let's say you buy that Excel course and you learn how Excel works, or you learn video editing and you find a way to just offer value in the marketplace. You can keep getting better at your craft. You can keep offering that service, even though that investment you made was an upfront cost. If you invest in the S&P 500 and you just put all of your excess savings into this thing that gives you 5 to 10% returns, you're pretty much agreeing you won't be able to retire or have any kind of freedom until you're 60 or 70 years old. If you invest in yourself and you build a business, maybe you'll be able to live a life that you love within 5 to 10 years, instead of having to work for an employer you hate for the next 40 years. Keep in mind, for something like a business, it takes a lot of time to build it up. You're not going to be able to get it done overnight. You're going to have to go through all of the difficult parts. There's going to be ups and downs. Sometimes I personally wish that I hadn't quit my job, but then I would have had to stay working at the bank. I would have had to work a job that I hate. I was getting a great income, but I was miserable. I hated my life. I hated the path that I was going down. So I'm very happy that I switched over to building my own business and becoming an entrepreneur. 3 years after going into my entrepreneurship journey, I'm still making a little bit less than I would have been making at the job, but over time, the income is increasing, and that's all that matters to me. Again, it's not going to be easy. It takes a lot of time, patience, and perseverance. You have to get through the difficult parts to actually get to the good parts. And I feel like I'm going through the difficult parts right now, which I'm perfectly fine with. It just takes some time to get through it. Investing in yourself is the most important thing that you can do. And I think it's the easiest way to get to financial freedom and to be able to do whatever you want with your time. If you're working a job, you're going to always be having to give up on your hobbies, having to make trade-offs between going here and here because you only have 2 weeks of vacation, so you can't visit both countries. I know a job is important to get stability and you have to be able to pay your bills, but building a business is going to get you to freedom a lot quicker than working a job and just continuing to live based on whatever the status quo is. So in conclusion, instead of buying the S&P 500, instead of buying real estate, I would recommend investing in yourself and being able to find ways to increase your cash flow, increase your ability to earn money so that you can accumulate more and more Bitcoin and you can increase your purchasing power over time. If you want to learn more about Bitcoin, watch the video on your screen. And if you found value in this content, leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. It really helps my channel.